right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Just Gay Stuff podcast. I am Jess.
And I'm Lauren.
And I want to say, if you didn't join us last week, you need to go back and listen to last week's episode with the talented Majelen and her wonderful wife, Courtney, because this week we have interrupted their dinner again. Because this is just what we do.
Why do we choose dinner time?
But they've so wonderfully agreed to join us again.
They have. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us again.
Oh, back to back.
Yeah, next time you should just actually come here for dinner.
I was going to say, at this rate, we'll be there for dinner.
And we'll record in the bus.
Yeah, why not?
Sweet. They'll be so sweet.
You can even have a little live rendition of one of Magellan's noodles.
That'd be so cool. That would be so cool. Actually, do you know, when we started the podcast and I wanted to interview LGBT musicians, I wanted to have a segment where if we did do in person to at the end do an outro kind of like Spicks and Specs where you play a song and we do cool video.
Yeah,
it would have been awesome.
Then you guys could jam together.
Next time. Magellan doesn't want to jam with me. She's so
Yes,
good.
I do. What are you talking about? My God.
Okay. We last episode went through your music journey and your coming out journeys together and how you met, and that was absolutely wonderful.
Cute.
But one thing that we didn't mention was on your musical journey, when we first met you both, we had a brief conversation about your social media presence and the journey in growing that presence. And so when we met you at Loud Proud Logan, I followed you on that day and you had about 117,000 Instagram followers, and that was dating back to October 12th.
Wow.
So that was just over a month ago.
Literally tomorrow it'll be a month.
Yeah, except for
whenever this comes out, but you know.
But I checked again today and I'm sure it'll go up in the next 2 weeks when this is released. But today you're now sitting at 151,000. So now anyone who knows anything about social media growth knows that is absolutely insane.
Sure is.
And you've both put in amazing work and strategized to build that following. But there is one thing that you brought to our attention that a lot of creatives and women especially face, and it's the dark side of social media, and that's a lot of unsolicited messages. So let's talk about that on this episode, which maybe people got the idea from the title of this episode, which is called Unsolicited.
Yeah.
For me, it's always just been there, but I guess because we've grown in our follow, I say we because it's both of us. We're both
you're a team. Yeah.
We're both Magellan online.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're talking to me, but they're talking to both of us. So
yeah, you should just outsource and they could be talking to some random dude down the street.
I have thought about it, trust me.
Like the OnlyFans people.
Yeah. But there's a lot of really, really lovely people on social media, and I really do appreciate those people because those people,
I'd say majority of the interactions,
90% of them are amazing, and those people are actually the people who are supporting Courtney and I to the point where we've got a career and we've got a future in creative things that we love doing, and we can now tour around the world and know that there are people all over the world who are going to show up to my shows and be on the journey with us. And that is, I feel very, very grateful for those people. But then the flip side of that is Facebook in particular. I hate going onto Facebook because it's an older demographic. And because of my guitar playing, I have a lot of men who tend to find my stuff because I'm a guitarist, because guitar playing has always been a dude's thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm actually trying to change. So I'm going to talk to you about that afterwards, maybe. But I end out just getting a lot of creepy older men. I've had people sending me videos of themselves taking their pants off, being like, I know you said you're gay, but how about now? And I get marriage requests on a daily basis. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous to the degree that if you were to Google Magellan, the top 5 result will come up her feet.
Yeah,
What?
Objectification.
Yes.
Something women have faced for such a long time.
Yeah. And I'm very intentional. Every video that I'm in online, I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And every time I go on stage, I'm in jeans and a t-shirt because I do not want men to have any more reason to send me any more of that shit, because it's actually disgusting and it does my head in. And I don't understand why you think that treating a woman in that way is acceptable. How in any way, shape, or form. Is that okay? I don't know. I don't get it. But so I try to avoid it at all costs, but there's nothing I can do because I'm a female. That's just what I get.
And it's a very far stone's throw away from flattery. Like it's way crossing that thick, bold line.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it started before the exponential growth that we've now had.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, we reached out to other female artists, even women in any sort of career that are online and have a presence. And they all said, yeah, they get harassed, they get this, they get that. And, you know, a lot of women are silent about it because we're told to just shut up and be quiet, stop complaining, at least you're getting some attention, which we've actually had men say that.
Oh, yeah.
When we've spoken out about this.
Basically, I think most women know what it's like. If you're online and you're a woman, you've probably experienced it. And it's not just about being online either. If you're a female, you know what it's like. Because it's just life, really.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I don't know if this is the case in all male-female duo artists.
Oh, yeah.
But when there is a male in the group, they don't get harassed. They don't get harassed in the sexual way that women get harassed. So they may be harassed in other ways, like, oh, you're playing shit or this or that, you know, schoolyard crap to just bring other people down. But it's the sexual connotation that gets projected at women specifically that just isn't okay and it's not acceptable. And I guess that's probably the darkest side of what we are experiencing with the online growth. And a really crappy indication to know that your post is going well is going, oh, we're getting hate mail, we're getting sexualized, she's getting this, or she's getting that. And it's like, oh, that post is going great.
Yeah.
And
We
it's
know
like,
that.
that shouldn't be an indication. And
Yeah.
what, you know, what in society has got us to this point of that's a
Acceptable way to treat
acceptable way to treat women.
What do you say to the people that would say that's what comes with being a public figure online?
Well, it's not about being a public figure online because I had this from day dot when I had no followers. I would still get men being creepy. I'm talking like when I very first started my page. It's been the same the entire time. It's just as I've grown, obviously I get more of it proportionally, but it's always been there. And I mean, if you walk down the street as a female, you're going to get catcalled and you're going to have stuff yelled out at you and you can't walk around in certain clothing. And like, I don't really wear revealing clothing, but you know when people are staring at you, like it's the exact same thing. It's not about even being online. It's just about being treated shit as a woman, basically, I think.
Mentioning the male-female duo thing and being put in front of a crowd, like I can completely identify with that. I play with a guy in my work and I'm always the one approached. He never gets approached. It's always someone approaching me and then something gets said to me and like I've noticed it and we talk about it and he's quite good because I know that sometimes when you bring up certain issues with not all men, let's hashtag not all men, but with men, they're very quick to say, oh, well, I don't do that. Oh, I've never seen that. It's like, well, you don't see it because it doesn't affect you the way that it affects us.
Yeah.
It's the same argument of like, why should a woman's clothes determine how you treat her? Things like that.
Yeah.
And it's things that men in general don't really have to think about until we start to talk about a queer spectrum and when we start to talk about like gender fluidity. Men don't experience it unless they start to experience gender fluidity and then they start to see how people treat you differently by the clothes that you wear and the choices that you make. And it just shouldn't happen anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You kind of half answered this one before when you said that you've been getting these messages from the beginning when you very first started your page. But when did you receive your very first message that was kind of a harassment thing?
Oh God. I think I've received that many in the last couple of years. They will kind of blur into one. But I mean, one that stands out though is there's one guy. He sent me a 15-minute long voice message telling me how much he loved me and how we should be together and all the rest of it. And I started listening. I heard about 10 seconds. And I was like, oh my God, this is freaking scary. So I blocked him and I didn't listen to it anymore. But that was a standout. That's a lot of effort. 15 minutes.
I was going to say that 15 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, that's bigger than what I ever did.
Yeah, I don't. I'm getting like, love you, honey. But yeah, that would probably be a standout. But I can't remember the first one.
Did you always know that this would be an issue that was going to need to be addressed, or did it kind of creep up on you in a way that you never thought maybe you would be affected online, but then suddenly you were bombarded?
I didn't expect the sexualization of me to be as bad as what it is. I knew I'd get shit from people because, one, I've got dreadlocks, so everyone assumes I haven't showered in 10 years. And
Love that.
Stereotype.
yeah. And like, I don't know, I live in a bus. I walk down the street and because of my hair, I get judged to be a certain type of person.
Yeah, she must be dirty, she must be broke, she must
I'm
be living off
obviously
the
on
system.
drugs.
She's obviously on drugs.
Constantly high, all the
Like-
time, all that sort of stuff. So I'm used to that. I don't care. I have my hair the way it is for a very deep reason that is very personal and actually has a lot of meaning. But no one needs to know that. I don't care. It's my hair. And so I knew I'd get crap because of that. But then it's always older men though too. Like it's just freaking weird. Like I don't understand what goes through. Like I'm talking like 50-year-olds plus is the predominant culprits of the sexualization that I receive. And I just don't understand what goes through their head. What hope do you think you've got, mate? Like,
Yeah.
are you serious? But they're like fully legit. They're adamant that they could be the best thing for me. And I'm like, wow. And I just don't understand. It just blows my mind, that side of things.
Do you think that the response would be reduced if you weren't openly queer on social media? Do you think that would reduce some of the messages? Or do you think that just invites more seedy messages of people trying to quote unquote turn you?
It does. Because yes, I have received messages from men specifically like one guy said, I know you think your wife does you pretty good, but a man could do you better. Like
It's
stuff like that.
disgusting.
That's so gross.
And it's like, we as women know that's not true. Like, for one.
yeah.
Scientifically proven.
Like, ask any
there
woman.
is a lot of longitudinal, peer-reviewed research done that women pleasure women the best. So I'm pretty sure we're fine.
Yeah.
Like, I love my straight friends, but also they have no idea what a good time means. I feel sorry
What they're
for
missing
them.
out on.
I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but I'm like, oh my God, yes. But yeah, I do think being gay does invite a certain amount of all that sort of stuff. But I just,
Interesting, religious people also like to tell us that we're,
I like
damned
these ones.
and we're going to hell and all this stuff, and God will judge you.
Yes.
Your day is reckoned and all this other stuff.
You're like, he's judging you more for hating us, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, because, in the Bible, it's like no sin is different from another sin. So to judge is the same as to be gay. So it's like,
It's all sin, mate.
it's all sin in your eyes. So it's like, oh, see you in hell then, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't cherry pick the Bible.
Yeah.
No one realizes I've lived a few lives in one life, but I spent 18 months at a Christian Bible college and I have the qualifications to be a Christian pastor if I so choose to. But I don't want to. But I do know the Bible very, very well. And I've studied it even in ancient Hebrew. And when people come and tell me what the Bible says, I'm like, all right, let me tell you what the Bible says, mate.
Yeah.
I studied that shit for a long time.
You're like, let me recite
You're
it
like,
to you.
I trained for this.
Let me recite it to you in 5 different languages.
She'll write like this massive paragraph of all of these, John said this, Matthew said this, Abraham was here, and blah, 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 blah. And it's all these things, and like, they never reply.
Nope.
No.
They
I love
Of
that.
course they don't.
That's the pure definition of knowledge is power.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to give in to any of their bullshit.
No. I used to feel bad though for like defending myself and saying like, no, this is unacceptable behavior. But now I'm like, nah, fuck you.
Mm.
I mean, not exactly fuck you, but like, no, this is unacceptable. You will treat me with respect or you will be blocked off all of my social media platforms. And honestly, mate, grow up and be an actual man.
And I guess the biggest thing that spurs us on to actually say something is because, like, yes, people act differently behind a keyboard or behind their phone screen. They feel like they've got this power that they can literally say and do whatever they want without any repercussions for their behavior.
Yeah.
But it's like that sort of behavior is living inside of them. And if they do this to women probably on a regular occurrence and they probably do it to more than just us. So it's like, if we're not calling them out and we're not saying, hey, in a more respectable way, like it's not like we go, you're a dickhead, you're this, you're that.
I'm very respectable.
We call them out in a respectable way that actually hopefully makes them reflect on the things that they've said and then can take that away and be like, well, maybe I shouldn't treat like women even in my reality like that. Hopefully it has that effect. And I think that's mostly as much as we're laughing and being like, you asshole and blah, 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 it's like we're more so coming from the aspect of like respect and like
Education.
and education,
Yeah.
because it's important. And Majelen did a video that highlighted this on her socials, and it wasn't vilifying the men that do it, but it was actually just kind of saying it's unacceptable, and this really isn't a woman's problem. This is a man's problem.
Yeah.
And it's the male demographic that should actually be standing together and calling this stuff out. And they should be the ones doing the marches and requesting more from their society. They should be the ones advocating for women to have equality, to have respect, to not be feeling unsafe in public or even online. It's the men that are good that should feel more empowered to protect the women around them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I kind of put it as like, dude, you got bigger muscles than I do. Like, I can't change that. And you were given those muscles for a reason. And it wasn't to harm people. It was to protect. So man up and start protecting the women in your world. And that includes people online.
Yeah.
If you see shit going down from other men around you, like I've had men yell stuff at me in public and there's another man over there and they don't do anything. I have to defend myself. And I'm the smallest. I do. I 100% do. But I'm the smallest person in that whole situation. There's plenty of people around, but I'm not a big human. Why am I going up against these big bullies all the time? And that's what it is. It's sexual bullying in a way. Like if I was that big, I'd be like, right.
Yeah, I'll take you all on.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a fine line for someone trying to climb a career ladder like yourself, especially using social media, that this push and pull of you want to be respectful because obviously you're putting yourself out there on a daily basis and you're wanting to build that following for yourself. And there's that part where it's like, you know, when we say, if you hit back at someone that's doing wrong to you, they'll tell like 10 people that you were the bitch. And it's like, you then have to live with that when you're the one trying to like build this career, and your bite back at disrespect can like disarm you completely when it wasn't your fault in the first place. Because I feel like I come up against that a lot.
Yes, I'm very, very conscious of that. And so in my responses to all of these men, I kind of let them know that they actually can be better. And I don't say anything mean. I'm not nasty. I'm not like, fuck you. I know I said that before, but I was joking. I would never say that.
You can't. You really can't.
No, you can't.
Which is bullshit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't help, because to change the culture within someone's mindset and within society's mindsets in general, you can't fight fire with fire. You have to show them a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to do that. And I try to kind of be like, look, mate, I know you're better than this. I don't understand why you're acting this way, but here's an alternative.
I can give you an example.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to get quoted.
this was an example of one of the ways that we've responded. So a guy wrote, now that's talent. Now need to show some cleavage to get a thumbs up.
I've got very small boobs, so I wouldn't see much anyway.
Wow, I really bet you ran to change just for that thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, woo!
So Magellan responded, Rick, real men respect the women around them in the world and use their strength to protect them rather than to harm them. Would you speak that way to your mother or your sister or a close female friend? If not, then don't speak that way to other women in the world. It's disgusting behavior and completely unacceptable and inappropriate. Is that the sort of man that you were raised to be? Really? Think about it, mate.
Great response.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope that he sat there and really actually thought about what you said.
Well,
Because
I never...
oh yeah,
I was gonna say,
that's even
did he
better.
reply?
That's better when they don't reply, because you've like shut them down. You don't have to continue listening to their bullshit.
Yeah, I try to respond with that sort of thing, because there's no point trying to be like, nah, fuck off, because that's just causing an argument.
You're just fueling the fire when you do that.
I think Brene Brown actually said this on a podcast. I really like Brene Brown. And she said she was really, really busy and really stressed, and this guy emailed her, and I don't know, he must have just not been super nice, and she responded and wrote this like massive rant, and she was supposed to send it to her husband, and she sent it to the guy.
She hit reply.
Oh wow.
Instead of forward, she hit reply. And then he instantly was like, ha, well, I knew it, you are a horrible person.
Yeah.
And she was like, just instantly felt like absolute crap. But he, you know, I think he must have written some pretty horrible things to begin with. And she replied instead of forwarding it to her husband, telling him what she really thought of him. And yeah, it's just really interesting that you reference, if you say something bad back, you're always made tenfold the worse guy. That made me think of that Brene Brown moment.
Yeah. Do you have, besides the messages that you've shared with us, do you have anything that is stand out the absolute worst? If you're willing to get raw with us and open.
Probably the video of the dude undressing was pretty horrendous.
Yeah, that one was not nice.
Oh, and there's that, and like these aren't sexualized ones, but we've had men write, "I hope you run your bus into a tree," death threats.
Yeah.
And they're pretty horrendous. It just,
they hit
but
a bit.
it's sad because it kind of is reflective of the mental health, I guess, of the world at some points, because I go actually onto their profiles to see who they are. And it's really interesting because a lot of them don't have many friends. And if they do have friends, a lot of their posts are around men's mental health, and they actually are struggling with depression and stuff like that. And sometimes I actually just say, like, maybe this isn't one that we should actually respond to. Maybe this person doesn't need to be educated. They're in this space of apathy, and the only way that they're lifting their spirit up is to try to level everybody to them.
They're projecting.
That guy that said, "I hope you drive your car into a tree." Was he the guy that was messaging us consistently for a couple of months?
Yeah.
He was on Instagram. No, he was on Facebook first. And then he followed us over to Instagram, and he was just horrible. Like every couple of days, he was writing something just really nasty. And in the end, I wrote him this big, long response. I never heard back from him again. But I was like, "Look, mate, you're obviously hurting. You've obviously seen something that I've got in my life. Like, I've got the love of my life. I am happy. I have freedom. I have all of these things. Obviously, you're hurting and you see something that you're lacking that I've got. And I'm sorry you feel that way. But being nasty to people is not going to help that. And I really hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you find something that makes you happy. I hope you find something that makes you feel good in life, so you don't continue to have to feel like you got to go out there and troll people and make other people feel like shit. And I really wish you all the absolute very best. And whatever you're looking for, I hope you find it." And I just wrote in this massive message of just being like, "Look, dude, this is not the answer. Life is better than what you're dishing out right now." And he never commented again. But it was like months of, "I just hope you die," or just horrible stuff.
Yeah, and you'd look him on one platform and he'd find you on another, and it was like, oh, this person again.
Yeah.
I think it's very noble of you to be able to take something horrible that's been said to you and return empathy to that person. Because again, we have a responsibility as well as people to, as you said, to educate others, and as well to not be the person that bites back and then that person ends up doing something stupid. And then you don't want to feel responsible for your response being the reason. Even though, and this is another bullshit factor though, even though they're the ones
harassing you
that gave you the hate in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's the kill 'em with kindness attitude, right?
I mean, Lauren and I have had, as you can imagine, like starting a queer podcast, we've had heaps of hateful comments, and
we turned them into slam poetry.
Well, we did that, but also we turned them into slam poetry and posted it on TikTok. But we also just respond to every comment with thank you. And mostly because, as you would know on the social media strategy side, that every comment you get pushes your content out further into social media land. But it's also so confusing for that person, because we've had people comment really hateful things and then we've said thank you and they're like, "Why are you thanking me?"
Why?
And we're like, "Well, what's not to be thankful for?" And then they have nothing.
They don't respond.
Yeah, that's true.
The other thing that we get a lot, which I'm sure you get as well, is a lot of like the pornography side of things being sent to you.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to respond to that kind of, like, we don't, but I don't know why people think that it's acceptable.
Yeah.
I just don't understand any of it.
Yeah.
I was raised to be a nice person, and I assume everyone else was raised that way too. But apparently maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we learn as we get older that we hold these expectations of other people in our lives, and we seem to think that they'll treat us the way we treat them, but that's unfortunately a hard lesson to learn that it's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that everybody listening to this episode, a lot of people can probably identify exactly with what you're saying and what we're talking about here. But I hope that the people that this hasn't happened to can see the ridiculousness in the fact that this is happening. And if you have friends that have told you, "Oh, I sent this message," and they've showed you, please shy them away from that. Like, steer them away from doing something like that, because it's just not right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do to stop it. As you said, it's on that section of people to kind of hold themselves accountable and hold their own people accountable.
Yeah, it's true. So, okay, because I'm a girl, as we all know, and I play guitar, as we all know as well. The whole time that I've been playing guitar, even since uni, I don't get taken seriously because I'm a girl. Like, if I was to walk into a guitar shop, even now, I walked into one recently and I was like, I want this sort of string. And the guy's like, well, actually, these ones over here are better. And I'm like, well, actually, no, they're not. Okay, if I could tell you, well, Courtney actually started talking about it because I was like, oh, here we go. But Cole Clark uses this guitar string nowadays because they've actually done studies and realized that they have more longevity, and they're actually the same technology that is used in these strings, but there actually was created by these guys, but it just was marketed by these people. And Cole Clark has switched from this brand to this brand. And I actually have tried both of them, and I've been playing guitar for a very long time, and I prefer these ones, which is the ones I'm asking for. So can I just have those, please? And it's like, why do I have to do that? Why does this guy assume that I know nothing because I'm a girl? And every single time I walk into a music store, I get looked at like I know nothing.
Yeah.
So,
or you went to uni and was on a full scholarship for jazz guitar, walked into the first class, and it was a full boys class, and they all laughed at it, and they were like, yeah, you're playing guitar.
yeah, right.
Righto.
And it, like, I've played in metal bands, right? And I've been backstage in the green room, and they're like, oh, who do you sing for? And I'm like, I don't sing. I play guitar. And they're like,
Well,
oh.
you do sing now. But...
Well, I mean, I do sing, but back then I didn't. And singing's only a recent thing. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, righto. And then I'm the lead guitarist. I've always been the lead guitarist. And I get off stage and they're totally different. They're like, oh, okay, so you can shred. All right, we'll talk to you now. But it's like before, they just want to chat me up because I'm some chick who sings and I'm just like some silly whatever. But as soon as I say I'm a guitarist, they're like, whatever.
I'm surprised they didn't ask you which guy's girlfriend you were.
Oh, I got that too. Yeah.
It's usually the way.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Sometimes when I've like shown up to somewhere in my duo, they're like, oh, so do you help him set up? And I'm like, I'm actually playing too. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Or you get the husband and wife one.
Yeah, it's really funny. People always assume that we're either brother and sister or husband and wife. And because my duo partner is engaged, he wears like an engagement ring. So people just assume that we're married. But at one party in particular, we had all these people coming up to us and we just don't explain. We just agree because it's just easier than going through a life story. So we had one person come up at the beginning and go, oh, are you brother and sister? And I was just like, yeah, agree, whatever.
And then you look nothing alike.
We don't look anything alike. But then at the end, someone came up and was like, oh, you two married? And my partner was like, yeah. So I'm like, I hope those two people don't talk to each other because we're brother and sister and we're married. Wow.
And we're from Tasmania.
Yeah. So I guess there is funny sides of things, but
it's still a shame that everyone sitting in this podcast room has to do that.
Well, it's like the statistics is like 1 in every 3 women have been assaulted by someone, and usually it's someone that they know, and that's absolutely terrible. So I think as well, for as we touched on before, if anyone's listening and you have received these unsolicited messages, don't bite back. Kill it with kindness. Remember, you are not alone. If you need to reach out to a friend or someone, please do it, because we can guarantee that your friend has probably received something along the same lines.
Yeah.
Majelen and Courtney are obviously trying to bring this issue to the forefront so that you don't feel alone and
start to make a difference.
If you have friends that are, especially if you have friends that are sending these kinds of messages, steer them away from doing that. I feel like there seems to be this thing where, as you mentioned earlier, when you're talking to these people about, would you treat your mother like this? Would you treat your sister like this? Do you have a daughter? Would you like her to be treated like this? People really lack that kind of empathy in that way. And there's nothing we can do to change that. And it's quite sad that this is the society that we live in at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I forgot to say it before. I started to, but I went on a tangent. But I've created a women's guitar group, like an international bunch of girls. It's on Facebook, like an online community. But when I travel around the world, I've decided that I'm just going to have coffee with all these girls who play guitar, because why not?
That's awesome.
Because I want women to support each other, because we kind of need to.
Yeah, it's important.
The music industry too is a very small industry, and there's not like, what is it, 2.8% of the top songs that have been on the charts in the last decade or something, I think it was, have been produced by a woman. 2.8%. And like, if you look at the whole music industry, like everybody from artists to booking agents to managers to like people working backstage, roughly 20% of the entire industry is female. Still, we're so underrepresented within the music scene and within a lot of industries that I really think the more of us that actually are just like, you know what,
like
like
a safe space
yeah,
for people to can ask questions and support each other.
Build each other up.
And you know what? I can guarantee you that small percentage of women that are doing it is a small percentage, because a lot of people are scared to go to these things alone because of harassment, assault, all of those things. The same way you wouldn't walk through the valley by yourself as a woman at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what time do most gigs, if you're a lighting tech or a sound tech, what time do they finish? You wouldn't leave there till 2 a.m. If you're not with somebody, you're not going to do that as a woman.
Uh-huh.
As you said before, like as a musician, you have to like kind of pick and choose what you're doing, especially if you're solo. I've turned down solo gigs based on the fact that I am not willing to put myself in a pub from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. singing alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was this festival in Canada that apparently existed, but I'm pretty sure this guy, like, it was fine for him to pay for my flights to go over when it was just me. But when I said, no, I will not go unless my wife goes with me, it was suddenly a problem.
Yeah.
This person sent a full contract stipulating all the things that they need to stipulate to get an artist from one country to the next.
Like, it was fully above board.
And we had it checked over by a long-standing professional manager in the industry. And she was like, yeah, it seems above board. That festival doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
But he made it look like
2019. He made it look like that it was running that year and everything, and it didn't.
It was crazy. But this guy, I'm pretty sure I would have disappeared if I had gotten on the plane.
Yeah.
So that's like an insanely elaborate plan to get you from one country to another country alone and by yourself.
I know.
Yeah.
Like,
that's terrifying.
Yeah. So that's it. I'm never traveling alone again. I mean, I would if I was backpacking and no one knew who I was and I was not meeting some guy on the other end. I would 100% go backpacking on my own.
That's a sad reality that you find yourself in, where if that was a female offering those same sort of things, you probably would go.
Yeah.
At what point can we heal that and make it safe all around?
Well, I think men just have to be less creepy.
Yeah. Well, have you seen those posts online where people say, if men didn't exist for a day, what would you do? And all these people are like, I would to this place in the city by myself. I would go on a midnight walk
alone at night,
by myself. And a lot of it was the same answer. And I think a lot of people don't seem to understand that there is so much instilled fear to be anywhere by yourself as a woman.
Yeah. It's true.
And like Lauren and I are true crime buffs. I think that's probably done us in. I'm scared
more than me.
I'm scared to live life in general now, but it really does instill a fear in you. But at the same time, it makes you very aware,
cautious,
aware of what the world is like, and sometimes in a bad way. But I mean, what we're talking about is pretty negative. So yeah, I think we got to call on the men in our lives to educate other men and do better.
Do better.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's not women's problem. It's not our problem to fix. We can't fix it because I can't change men's mindset. They have to do that themselves.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
And
right.
a lot of the responses from the good men that took the time to actually listen to the posts that Majelen put up, they said, you know, they're trying to educate their sons to respect women and this is really needed. And they actually thanked Majelen for actually putting up a post like that.
Yeah, which is lovely. And it's awesome that there are really good men in the world. Like, there is plenty of good men.
The good men far outweigh the bad men.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely.
It's just sometimes we need them to speak up a little louder.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's always the negative that has the loudest voice, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's with anything. Just to disclaimer, this is not an episode hating on men at all. We're just asking
This is an educational episode.
This is an educational episode to let everybody know what happens to us as women on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if women were the ones writing messages and hate speech or sexual stuff,
which does happen. So everyone knows that we're not being one-sided. It does happen on a smaller scale.
Yeah, we've only ever had two women ever say anything
Oh,
offensive.
one was quite funny though.
Well, we should end on the funny message that you've received so we can end on a bit of a laugh and a positive.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell a story?
Yeah, she's a lesbian lady, and she lives in LA. And
What was
she
her name?
like,
Something
Lesbian.
Lesbian.
Yeah.
Lesbian.
She was literally just like, forget your wife and your time over there, and just come and live with all us LA lesbians and start a new life. And I was like, what?
Yeah, she was like, you'll have a career if you leave your wife behind. I was like, okay.
You're like, my wife is a part of my
You're
career.
like, I have a career and it involves my wife, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the other one was a lady who told us that she was a marketer, and if I didn't have dreadlocks, I'd probably be more successful because I'd be more marketable.
She needs to fix her hair, and then, but her profile, she had like the biggest red mop, just flyaways everywhere, and I was like, interesting.
You're like, fix your flyaways and maybe we'll talk.
Yeah.
See, I run my mouth a bit. I would not be able to hold back on that. I try
Yeah,
really
you're trouble.
hard. I'm trouble. Well, I'm glad we can end this very heavy episode on a laugh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to thank you both for sharing such a heavy topic. And we have a question on the end of all of these episodes. Sometimes it's just, did you enjoy the episode? But on this episode, I really want people to share if they've ever been a victim of unsolicited messages online so that we can all support each other through it.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's build a safer future together, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's conversations like this that can really bring that to light and start the footsteps going forwards. So thank you for joining us
Thank you.
on this.
Thank you for having us.
Well, to end this episode, we're going to give you another song of Majellan's. So this one is called Flame Tree. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you have really taken some of the topics from this episode and sat with them a little bit and thought about your female counterparts and how day-to-day life is affected.
Or your
for
own
them.
experiences.
Or your own experiences. And share them with us so that you aren't feeling isolated or alone. Lauren and I have some that we can share back with you if you like. So that's it for this week's episode.
Yeah.
So
Until next time.
you better remember to...
Stay gay, motherfuckers.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both for...
That's okay.
Down by the river, feel the stories, hear the songs of long gone days. Jump in the water, the clear perspective washes all my doubts away. Sometimes it's lonely, we built a place that keeps us safe and feels like home to me. Come on, take another drive with me, why don't we collide, let's take a ride back to our flame tree.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.